I don't even know how to explain what we just saw. How unbelievable was that? The Final Four is now set, and what a game to finish off the round of the Elite Eight as UConn comes back from a 19-point deficit. I mean, they were dead in the water, and they come all the way back, and they defeat the Duke Blue Devils in dramatic fashion. And who was the hero? Braylon Mullins, the one that got away from Indiana. Hey, you did hear, I don't know if you caught the post game, but he made a comment about how glad he was to be going back to Indiana, almost like maybe he's missed the place a little bit. Maybe.
I don't know if you also caught
it. What a game.
Yeah. When they were showing a replay of the shot, they said that was from the logo, and the other guy said that was from Greenfield. So
yeah,
getting a little Indiana love, and I'm sure that he's going to have a lot of fans and supporters and family in the crowd there in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah. I mean, the place will be packed with Braylon Mullins supporters, and the UConn Huskies kind of spoil a lot of people's brackets, I would imagine, because I think Duke, as the overall number one seed, probably was on a lot of people's brackets, including mine, to win. Now, I only had him on one of my two brackets because, remember, I'm multiple bracket guy, and I did have him on one of my two. But the one that was doing the best up to this point is the one that I had them winning. So I'm kind of shattered at this point. I'll tell you this, I am really glad we did not do this show at 6 o'clock, because at 6 o'clock, when Duke was pounding them by 19 points, we'd have gone on and we'd have talked about Duke heading to the Final Four and how good Duke was looking and how bad UConn was looking. And we'd have been fools because, remember, it ends up being archived. People can go back and listen later, and they could probably think, what are these guys talking about? Do they even watch basketball? So the fact that now we know, because we waited to 7:30 to actually jump on and do our live show, I feel much better about it because now we have our Final Four officially. And I don't know about you, Adam, but I had a thought earlier today. I thought it's too bad the NCAA doesn't reseed when they get to the Final Four. And then I thought about it for a moment, and I thought it wouldn't even matter because I'm thinking Michigan and Arizona right now, that is the national championship game. Nobody's beating either one of those two teams, and I'm not sure which one will beat the other.
Yeah, I have no idea, but you've got a point there. It looks like these two teams are just at a class above all the rest. Every team that they've run into so far hasn't been able to keep up with them, whether it be their size or their athleticism, or they've both had hot shooting nights too, or hot shooting halves.
I've been trying to tell people who are willing to listen to me, size wins in today's game. You look at guys like Luka as a 6'9", 6'10", whatever he is, guard. I think the Greek Freak might have been one of the first that actually became the really big player that plays the wing and becomes almost impossible to defend. LeBron James is in that mold. At 6'8", he's built like a power forward, but he has played point guard. And not necessarily the point guard on the team, but when you come down and run offensive sets, he has run the point guard through different stages of his career. And you look around college basketball right now, it's not about the big postman with his back to the basket. It's about the stretch five. Now, bigs are important because bigs are part of that overall size. But what I've said is the size of your 2, 3, and 4 man is very important right now. You can have a smaller point guard, but your 2, 3, and 4 man, they have to physically be able to do things that maybe they didn't have to do a few years ago in college basketball. And now you've got to have them rebound. You've got to have them be able to switch because the popular defensive scheme now, and you saw it with Michigan, they switch everything. And it makes it very tough to come off of a ball screen or any kind of screen and get any kind of space because they're just going to switch it and, they don't have to fight through anything. And that's what Michigan does because they can, because they're all big and athletic, so nobody creates a mismatch. And, size, it does matter. I mean, been trying to tell us that, women been trying to tell us that for a long time, Adam, and I guess now I finally believe them. size matters.
When it comes to the game of basketball, of course, that's what you're talking about. I don't know
Well,
any other
that's
context.
what I'm talking about.
That's what we're talking about. But no, I mean, it's like you said, and we, as far as the physicality and athleticism too, I feel like we saw that come into play for Arizona in the second half against Purdue. I feel like Arizona was just kind of able to outmuscle and outlast Purdue, who had been on a grueling Big Ten tournament run and a decent tournament run here in the March Madness, but there was just more strength and athleticism from the Arizona side in that second half of that game.
Yeah, the end of the game, and we've got a couple of comments that came in, including Mr. Vegas and, of course, Ryan weighing in, talking about what a comeback and what a logo shot to win it. But it really made no sense. Duke had to do something to give UConn an opportunity. The game was over. I mean, there was no choice for UConn if they couldn't steal the pass other than to foul. And once you get the ball inbounded, you don't want to give it up. You want to get a good free throw shooter to hold on to the ball. Or you get it into the front court and dribble it out. You don't get into an area of traffic and then try to throw the pass, a contested pass. I mean, basically Duke should have just held on to the ball and force UConn to foul them. That's what they would have had to do. Get to the free throw line and try to get back or try to get a 4-point lead. But crazy stuff. The long three. I mean, that's the thing, is not only did they steal it, but they set up the trailer, who was Braylon Mullins, for a great look. And how about Mullins? You know, he's an Indiana kid. We've talked about that. But 0 for 4 in the game shooting threes. Okay, and shooters know exactly whether they've hit shots or not. They always say that the best shooters, they've got, short-term memory and all this stuff. They don't remember those shots that they miss because they always think they're going in. Well, shooters do know when they're missing shots. They can get frustrated by that. They can lose some confidence, and it doesn't mean overall they lose confidence. They'll come back the next game and shoot 6 or 7 threes. But a lot of times within the flow of a game, they don't feel like the hot hand. Shooters can be streaky. They're either hot or they're not. And when they're not, they're probably not going to seek out their shot. Mullins was not seeking a shot. In fact, Mullins even admitted he thought maybe he'd try to avoid the shot because he hadn't made one. And then Caravan gave it right back to him, basically saying, you're shooting this. And he drained it. It's a huge shot, especially for a freshman. Incredible UConn win. And I don't like UConn. And, I'm not a big fan of Dan Hurley.
Yeah,
but
I can attest
down
to
the
that.
stretch, he outcoached Mr. Shire. So what do we got?
Let's see. They said you sound so much better with your new laptop, your new setup there, Brett.
Yeah, I know. I actually have a video that matches my audio. I am not an IT person, and I don't have an IT person. And so I went to a retail store and said, look, I'm having a couple of issues that keep coming up. One, my mic sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. And I find out it's all about RAM, storage, and all this other stuff that I don't pay a whole lot of attention to. But now my son understands it more than I do. But me, I don't pay. So then they told me, here is what you have to have if you're going to run live processing of video and storage and all this. And so they hook, line, and sinker. They got me for $1,000, and I got a new system, and here we are.
Hey, so far it's worth it. You look fantastic, sound fantastic. Rick said there were 10 seconds left. There was no pressure to get across midcourt to avoid a 10-second call, only to get the ball farther away from the UConn basket.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a head scratcher. And by the way, while we're talking about technology, let's talk about how nice you look and with your extra crisp appearance. You've got the camera on, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got the upgraded webcam.
Yeah, it used to be a little hazy. Now you've got a nice, real clear look.
Appreciate it.
But anyway, yeah, I got to get you elevated up here with me. I
can bring it down a little bit.
Yeah, let's see if we can even ourselves out a little bit. All right, so the Final Four is now set, and we've got Michigan versus Arizona.
What a matchup.
Mr. Vegas, how are we going to pick this game? I'll tell you what, Adam, pull up the lines, because I bet the lines are already out, and I'm going to guess the lines. I've not looked. And before I even pull out my phone and look, I'm going to guess.
I've got them right here.
Okay, I'm going to guess that Arizona is a 1.5 point favorite.
You are on the wrong side. We're looking at a Michigan minus 1.5.
Really?
Yep.
I thought Arizona would be the favorite. Maybe the fact that it's close to Michigan and they feel like the crowd will be heavy Michigan because of the proximity. I mean, it's the Final Four. I don't know that it matters.
Yeah.
There's going to be 45, 50,000 people there.
Here's the interesting thing. Michigan minus 1.5, you can get plus 102 on that right now. Arizona to cover plus 1.5 is only minus 122. So some interesting numbers there.
That's not to win outright. Those are the 102 and minus 120. That's not the money line number, right?
No, those are the spreads. So
all right, so we got Michigan as a favorite at 1.5. And then the other game is going to be Illinois and UConn. This is going to be an interesting game to call as well. I would guess, I'm going to say, man, this is a tough one too, but I'll say UConn 1.5.
On the wrong side again, Illinois minus 1.5.
Man.
And that's been moved actually a little bit. It looked like it opened at Illini minus 2.5, and it's been bet down to minus 1.5. So maybe some UConn money coming in after that.
Yeah, quick UConn money jumping on that. Once again, you can leave your comment. Make sure while you're watching the video that you do click that subscribe button. We would love to have you as a subscriber. Make sure you do that. All right, let's see. Michigan minus 2. We just had 1.5. Mr. Vegas guessing UConn minus 1. And what'd you say? It was Illinois? Opened at 2.5?
Yeah, but it's already down to 1.5.
Seems like too much, but you know what it is? Think about it. Michigan, Illinois, two teams from the Big Ten that obviously are not going to be that far away. And they got, I think they're getting a couple of points for the home cooking, the home proximity.
Maybe. But, I mean, it feels like both of these games are toss-up in my mind. I mean, these are both really good matchups either way. Yeah,
they are. I mean, you can flip a coin on either one of these as far as I'm concerned at this point. And I still feel like Michigan, Arizona is the national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that it's a shame the way those two teams are playing, that somebody is not going to survive Saturday afternoon, because I think both of those teams are deserving of being a national runner-up at worst, and they're not going to even get into the title game. I mean, let's be honest. If we ranked those four teams right now, and I said, reseed, maybe what they should do is re-rank the four teams. Because if they took the seeding from before the tournament started, we would have the same matchups we've got. Well, actually not, because Connecticut and Connecticut winning, UConn winning, that would have separated the two. So maybe, reseeding would be the way to go, but it's not going to happen. The brackets are set and the people have spoken and they've made their bracket picks. And so you can't just change it now. Which Big Ten team has the better chance to get to the championship game?
That's tough,
In my
too.
mind, Michigan.
Michigan is better over Arizona than Illinois. Yeah. Oh, man, that is tough, too. These are hard questions. I'm just looking forward to getting these games. I'm so sad we have to wait 5 days.
We could very possibly have an all Big Ten championship.
Wouldn't that be something? Illinois versus Michigan.
Yeah, with two teams that didn't make it to the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
Who'd Purdue beat in the Big Ten championship?
Didn't they beat Michigan in the Big Ten?
Oh, did they beat Michigan in the Big Ten championship game?
I think they did. I'll double check for you, but yeah, still, I mean, they're not the Big Ten champions, so
it's amazing how quickly we forget 2 weeks ago when there's all these games to remember.
There's been a lot to talk about.
Okay, let's talk about Purdue.
Man,
I mean, there's nothing that can be said. Purdue ran into a better basketball team. Bigger, faster, stronger. Freshmen were huge for Arizona this year. The European influence that they got, the European players, they played great, have played great. And as well as Purdue could play, they played in the first half. And the second half, Arizona showed why they are one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country, if not the best team in the country. And Purdue just was not on that level. I think Purdue ended the season probably around the 5th or 6th best team in the country. And I think that's an achievement because I don't think going in, especially to the Big Ten tournament, they had the 5th or 6th best roster. They weren't playing like a 5th or 6th best team in the country. And so for Purdue to get to where they got, I think they achieved at their very highest potential. I know before the season they were ranked number 1. A lot of that is because of ignorance, because we don't know what everyone else has. We only know what Purdue has. And Purdue had everybody coming back. They had their core returning. And so we could sit there and say, well, Purdue's got these guys coming back, and no one else seems to be able to match that. So Purdue, by default, is number 1. And that's the way we vote preseason polls. And that's why I have a real problem with preseason polls. And you know, I've talked about this for years, that I think preseason polls are not only useless, but they're anti-productive because then they set the precedent for how you vote for future polls. And instead of analyzing after 3 weeks or 4 weeks of play, who is number 1, who's the second best team, who's the third best team, we just shift the teams that we had preset in a preseason poll that meant absolutely nothing.
But don't you want to know who might be the best team to start the season, Brett? Don't you want to click on our article?
Who's next year's best team when last year ended? Before anybody did recruiting, before anybody signed anyone from the portal, let's go back and see the guys that didn't celebrate a senior day with their basketball teams, who's going to have the best talent coming back? Because literally, we don't know. And I tell you this, it's affected the mid-majors because I was asked to fill out a Horizon League preseason conference ranking, right?
Yeah.
Heck if I know.
I know the Dons, man. I don't know the whole league.
And I followed a lot of the guys that were picked up, signed and stuff.
Yeah.
But how do you judge a guy that was on Arizona State? I'm making up a fictitious player. This is not an actual example. But how do you judge a guy that was a redshirt freshman that never played, but he was recruited to Arizona State because he was a really good high school player, and now he's signed by Cleveland State? What's he going to do for the Vikings this year? And we're being counted on to vote on a poll projecting what input that player will have for Cleveland State. No idea. And every team around the Horizon League has the same situation. They've got guys coming in. I mean, you can look at the Mastodons this past year. There were guys that were being touted as, tremendous athletes or tremendous players that didn't contribute. We have players that came in and were a pleasant surprise. And then you have CJ Hadnot, who never took on the number 1 role and became the top scorer in the Horizon League. I mean, you never know before the season starts, even if you're following the team year round. And so preseason polls are absolutely a waste of time.
Got to get those
and
clicks,
then they
man.
set the precedent, so it takes an entire season of polls before they adjust. I think by late January, we started to see that's when you had like Miami cracked into the polls and St. Louis was breaking through in the polls. Some of those teams that were coming in that had terrific November, December, and even into January were playing really good basketball. Now, St. Louis kind of fell apart over the last month of the season. I was very high on them up through January, and then in February, something happened. Miami, we all know what happened with the Red Hawks, but yeah, they weren't going to be on a preseason poll based on what they had done the year before. All right, let's see. I'm sure TBS will want UConn versus whoever instead of an all Big Ten championship. Yeah.
They might want that.
I'm trying
will
to
they
think,
get it?
Would Arizona not draw like UConn would? Because what he's saying is UConn would break up the all Big Ten. But if Arizona wins, because there could be 2 Big Ten teams, there could be 0 Big Ten teams in the championship.
Yep.
So if Arizona beats Michigan, and let's say Illinois does beat UConn, is that going to be bad for television? What would draw a bigger audience? Illinois versus Arizona or UConn versus Michigan?
I think UConn, Michigan. Yeah, you got more.
I think I answered my own question. I thought it was going to be a better question than it came out as. Because once I said it, I thought, oh, well, I know how to answer this one. And when it's that easy for me to answer my own question, it wasn't a good question.
Still worth thinking about, though. But we'll see. We'll see who it ends up being. I don't know. It'd be cool to have. I personally wouldn't mind seeing an all Big Ten championship, but I'm right here in the heart of Big Ten country. So, what's
the legacy of Trey Kaufman-Renn, Fletcher Lawyer, and Braden Smith? Are they the greatest 4-year group to go through Purdue that didn't win a championship? Or are they the most accomplished group that's ever gone through Purdue, making it as far as they did each year and the successful run, the Big Ten championship? How do we remember those? Because let's face it, we're not going to see this kind of 4-year group that comes in as freshmen because there's not as many freshmen being recruited. So you don't have these 3- and 4-person classes. And I'm trying to remember, was there anybody else that came in on that freshman class? I was trying to remember that earlier today, and I was going to look it up, and then I got hooked on the games. But was there anybody else in their class that came in that did not stay? Lawyer, Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn, and was there another?
I'll see if I can figure that out. But as far as their legacy goes, to me, it just kind of feels like, yes, they were accomplished, and they were probably one of the most consistently quality basketball teams in the NCAA. But like you said, they were just never able to, reach the champion, or they were able to reach it, but they were never able to win it all. Even with Zach Edey, when he was part of the Boilermakers as well. So
talking about size and how size wins, just wanted to give you the Final Four teams, their starting lineups. Illinois, 7-1 center. Arizona, 7-2 center. Michigan, 7-3 center. And then the 4-man, Illinois, 6'9". And I didn't have time to collect on UConn, so that's why I've only got these 3. Illinois, 6'9", Arizona, 6'8", Michigan, 6'9". That's the 4-man. The next guy, the 3-man, 6'8", 6'7", 6'9". The 4-man, 6'6", 6'4", 6'5", and their point guard, 6'2", 6'3", 6'1". I mean, that's pretty good size because you basically have a 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 2 guard, and then everybody else 6'7", 6'8", and above. And if you can find athletes at that size and you can switch and you can, rebound, it gives you added length on the defensive end. And then you don't have to worry about them being little jets defensively because if you're switching everything, you don't have to worry as much about getting beat because generally the way you get beat is you lose your angle off a screen and then the guy takes it down the lane on you and you never catch up to cut him off. Let's see. It says post-game on CBS Sports should not have to make these kids answer stupid questions from the press. I know Bobby K was totally against that. Oh, Bobby Knight was against that, bringing the kids into the post-game press conference. Well, the ones that it's tough on is the losing team.
Yeah. Did you see Patino and his little upset with the media because they interviewed the winning team first, and then it took St. John's basically had to sit there after losing for over 30 minutes before they came up and were asked questions.
Yeah, that's bad. And then there's no good question generally to ask a player immediately after a devastating loss.
No.
You think about it, it's the end of the career for a lot of these guys. It's the last time they'll ever take that uniform off. It's the last time they'll have worn the uniform. And so it's a very emotional time. And for them to be asked dumb questions. Now, occasionally there might be a really good question, something that you really do want to ask a guy. But to make them sit through a press conference where there's a bunch of journalists that are there that just want to ask a question and come up with something. And they come up with some of these outrageous questions. Yeah, it's not fair on the kids. Once again, subscribe. Make sure you leave your comment. We always like to have the comments. We got some good comments coming, but most of them coming from the same two people. And we appreciate you, Mr. Vegas. Keep them coming because it gives us content to play off of. So we always appreciate getting those comments. But size does matter. And that's why I'm kind of excited because the Mastodons got their first guy out of the portal.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he's a big man. I love that. I've talked about the fact that the Dons just had a shortage of size. And they ended up getting Adair Ortiz. A 6'8", 235-pound 4-man, naturally a 4-man, but will play a 4 or a 5 in the Mastodon system. Maybe more of a stretch 5 than what we've seen, but he'll be a 4-5 man. 6'8" on some rosters, 6'9" on others. So he's probably a true 6'8". But that takes care of that. I've got my boxes for all the positions, the profiles the Mastodons have to fill. And what's still open now, still need that 6'9" plus center. If you can get them, they're hard to come by. But remember, the D1 portal hasn't opened yet. This guy came through the D2. And there's a lot of talent in D2, and there's about 600, 700 players in the D2 portal. So imagine what D1's going to look like with 360-some teams. I mean, you're going to have 1,000 players that are going to be in the portal. And that will start officially the day after the national championship game. But they still need their true postman. Still don't know on D'Angelo Elise whether or not he's going to be able to come back and have another season because of a redshirt request. We'll see what happens. But they need a 6'6", 6'7" wing shooter, somebody that can just be pure shooter on the outside wing. 6'6", 6'7" size, so they provide that third rebounder. 6'4" to 6'6", wing to be a defender / rebounder, somebody that's their specialty. Rebounding to me is a mindset. It is not a skill, because you can easily teach how to rebound. If you want to put your mind to it and you want to teach the skill, it's not that hard. It's you put your butt into somebody, you back them away from the space, the best space, and you go get the rebound. You just want it more than your opponent. And that's a mindset, and that's a culture. And they need somebody that's got that mindset and has that already ingrained in them to go get rebounds, even if they're only 6'4", 6'5", or 6'6". And also somebody that can be a defensive stopper that's not 6 feet tall. You know, part of the problem is the Dons, when they matched up defensively too many times, you'd have a 6'6" or 6'7" guy that would be guarded by a 6'3" guy. And if he got down by the basket, all he had to do was turn and just go right over the top of the defender. And so if you're 6'5", 6'6", you start to take that, you know, get you down low and then just turn and go right over the top of you type of play. So they need the big man, the 6'9" plus guy. They need a wing that's a taller wing, 6'6", 6'7", that can really shoot it. I mean, I'm talking 43, 44, 45% from distance. You need that 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" dog that wants to be a defender, that wants to be a rebounder, that just is an athletic freak, that wants to really get in your grill. And then you need another scorer, somebody like a CJ Hadnot or a John Conchar that can do a little bit of everything, maybe 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". Got to get one of those guys. They've got about 6 or 7 spots to fill, and they've got one filled. So good for them.
Yeah, I like the start.
Okay, other freshmen included Will Berg, Sam King, and Cam Heide. I did not know Heide came in. TKR actually was in the class with Caleb First. He was in a year earlier and redshirted. And that's why he became a redshirt freshman at the time that Lawyer and Braden Smith were true freshmen. And I think I got that right. I was thinking about that when I said it, that TKR might have been a year ahead and been a redshirt. Will Berg, don't know what happened to Will Berg. Sam King. Sam King, actually, I think, was he the walk-on that I think he was the walk-on that redshirted this year.
Oh, okay. I know Will Berg went to Wichita State, I believe.
Oh. And Cam Heide, we know, he ended up down in Texas.
Yep, we saw plenty of him not too long ago taking on the Boilermakers. But yeah, I like the start for recruiting for Purdue Fort Wayne. I like the size and physicality from Adir. Shout out to Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
that's where he's from.
Yeah, big guy, and ended up in D2 because coming out of Puerto Rico, probably not a lot of people that knew a whole lot about him. But he has worked his way into a position, 15 points a game. I think he averaged close to 8 rebounds.
Yep.
Impressive and shot. I think he was about a 40% 3-point shooter.
Hey, he'll do even better. 44 last season. He took 87 attempts too, hit 39 of them things. So
yeah,
3-pointer.
I know he is a. I don't want to say a filler of the Max Nelson type position, but he's one of those guys that could be an option to play that type of spot.
But
and
with
maybe even more of a rebounder and a banger at the basket than Nelson was.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So, yeah, good start.
Purdue Fort Wayne, speaking of the Mastodons, the women ended up losing at Arkansas State. Just too much of a challenge. That it's not a good matchup for them when they play a team that has that type of athleticism and presses you the entire time. And I will say this, we talk a lot about women's basketball and what women's basketball needs to do to continue to progress and move forward with their game, because they've made great leaps, because some of the skills that they are showing in their game are on par or equivalent to what the men's game has. So you don't miss anything when you tune into a women's game because you've got players that can fill it up from three. And that's part of the game that people enjoy watching, is they enjoy watching players that can really hit the deep 3-point shot. But I did come across statistically some numbers that I thought that's an area where women's basketball as a whole has to get better. And that is turnovers. I didn't really think a whole lot about it this year, but if you go through games in women's basketball, especially college basketball, women's college basketball, and you look at the turnover numbers for men's games versus women's games, it's crazy how many more turnovers you will find in women's basketball. Now, I don't know if that's because there's a bigger disparity of athleticism at the D1 level. We know there's disparity, a lack of parity, which I believe is what disparity is. But there's a lack of parity in women's basketball because you just have to look at the scores of the NCAA tournament and realize it's the haves and the have-nots. That even those at a lower level that had terrific seasons playing against the lower level are nowhere near competing for the higher level. There's no bridge, and I think in men's basketball, there's a little bit of a bridge where, some of the better mid-major teams, they can threaten some of the average high-major teams. But in women's basketball, it's very tough to do. And but the one thing that can give you more eyeballs on the game and more entertainment, because as basketball fans, what do we do to measure a really good game? We always say it was a well-played game. That was fun to watch, really well played by both teams, right? And with women's basketball, a well-played game or a highly competitive game might have one team with 14 turnovers and the other team with 19. And you compare it to a men's game that might have 8 turnovers and the other team at 11. Well, 19 total turnovers versus 19 by one team in the women's game. So I would just say this, that if you're a girl playing basketball and aspire to advance not only your own career, but a team that you eventually end up on, and improve the overall game of women's basketball, don't turn it over. You have individual players that in some of the box scores over the last 2-3 weeks of the season had 7, 8, or 9 turnovers. Individual players that had 7, 8, or 9 turnovers. Just cannot do that. And so I did notice that. And I don't know what it means, but it just my word of advice.
Got to take care of the basketball.
We've got to talk about the Pacers, Adam. Man, do you want to talk about the perfect tank job they did the other night?
Yeah, there's been a lot of...
When something like this happens, you do have to ask yourself, all right, something going on.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about it.
80-some% free throw shooter steps to the line, only needs to make one of two to get overtime, and if he makes them both, which the percentages are strongly with him at an 84% clip on the year, he can win the game. And it was the freakish way that they ended up in the position to win. A foul on an out-of-bounds play with basically no time on the clock. And Jay Huff steps to the free throw line, misses the first, and then sent a rocket up to the rim on the second. Almost looked like he was intentionally missing, but I'm not going to say that he was intentionally missing, if you know what I mean. But Pacers lose by a point in a game they had like 2 opportunities to win in the final seconds. And then I don't know what they did today. They actually came out and kicked the Miami Heat's butt. I guess they felt safe because they gave one away, so they felt like they had cushion. They could come out and actually play today. But they rolled today.
Yeah.
How about that?
I've seen some people, I've seen both sides of it. I've seen people saying, Jay Huff is not currently guaranteed a roster spot for the 26-27 season on the NBA teams, so there's no way he would on purpose miss 2 free throws in a row. I saw people responding to that. Hey, there's a chance the Pacers brass might have gotten a word in his ear and said, hey, we'll take care of you if you miss these free throws. I've seen conspiracy theories about it, and definitely one of the craziest finishes and weirdest ways to lose a game I've seen in a while. But even with, I'm sure they're not happy about the win today against the Heat. They would have rather have been blown out by 50, as far as I've been hearing from most Pacers.
I think the players don't like that. I mean, it gets tough losing every game, right?
Yeah, I'm talking
but
from a fan perspective.
Base and the front offices, they probably are not all that disappointed in losses.
No. I wasn't. Boozer didn't really impress me a whole lot today in that Duke game. I mean, he looked good first half, but
he made the big mistake that cost them the ball game by trying to pass.
That too. So I don't know. I was leading to
that rules out Boozer, and it rules out Boozer and Peterson because we've already decided we're not taking Peterson. We have the draft pick in our hands.
I mean, I'm calling up.
We're not taking him. And then now we have to debate whether or not we take Boozer.
I'm still DeBonsa, personally.
DeBonsa might be the guy by default. Is there anyone else to be considered for that spot?
As far as top 3, no. Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
So yesterday was down in Indianapolis. We had, now from the region, not our market, not our radio market, but from Northeast Indiana, we did have Westview that played in the 2A game. What an amazing heartbreaker for Westview.
Yeah, I saw that finish. That was tough.
A borderline call that goes the other way. Then they end up down and they get a chance driving to the basket, and a layup that hangs on the rim before falling off would have won the game. Tough loss for Westview. And that was a heck of a basketball game. And that is one of those where you define it as a great game. Even though, Westview lost, really good, highly competitive game. Both teams made plays, hit shots, hard-nosed defense, gritty performance. And so Westview ends up falling in the 2A game by a point. And then New Haven, they were fine for like 3 quarters and a few seconds. And then all of a sudden, it's like the wheels started to fall off. They couldn't score. They couldn't come up with stops. They kept fouling and putting Cathedral to the free throw line. And eventually Cathedral just slowly pulled away and ended up winning the game. And so New Haven ends up as the 3A runner-up. But you got to say, heck of a performance for a New Haven team that had, 7 losses going into the state championship game. I mean, to be able to work their way through the tournament trail. And, they didn't have as dominant or as difficult a trail as Cathedral had to get there, but they did win their games and got there. You can only play the teams that have earned the right to join you on the court. And that's who New Haven played, and that's who they beat. And so they earned the right to be down there. And for 3 quarters, gave Cathedral everything they could handle. And just unfortunately, it wasn't to be at the end.
No, but like you said, credit to them for a good run and a good game too. I mean, the final score not super reflective of the entire game. A good portion of it was close. It's just Cathedral had like a 13-4, 13-5 run there to kind of close it out. So a little bit lopsided at the end, but before that, it was a really good game, and everybody was entertained there down at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. I think they even set a combined record for block shots, the Bulldogs did, but unfortunately it wasn't enough.
We were talking about the Mastodons women's basketball team losing, ending their season. So now they start their exercise of portaling. Maria has done a really good job going non-D1 and bringing in some really good players. I mean, player of the year out of the NAIA, who ended up being one of the top players in mid-major women's basketball, Alana Nelson. First team all conference.
Yeah.
Great player. And she was an NAIA player.
Right. Not even D2, D3 or anything like that. I mean, NAIA. And that's not to disparage NAIA.
Not another mid-major transfer. She's done a really good job of finding those types of players and bringing them in and having success. Now, there may be a couple of players in the D1 transfer portal. Brooke Winchester is transferring from Ball State. And I know that's somebody that the Mastodons had conversations with before she went to Ball State. Another player that they had plenty of conversations with and were hoping to get when she was being recruited out of high school at Columbia City was Addie Baxter. She's announced her intentions to enter the portal. And then you also have Sydney Huber, who is out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, went to Evansville, but another player with some relationship with the Mastodons, although Huber might be looking to take a step up and see if she can catch a flyer from maybe a team that's at the high major level. But, I mean, there's a chance she's going to be available. 8.5 points a game, 35% three-point shooter. She is only a freshman this year, so she would be a sophomore next season. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what because, again, she used experience to replace experience, and so there's going to be some spots that you've got to fill with that roster. There will be 3 or 4 spots that you will bring players in. You've got that outstanding young class. You've got Lily that is hopefully going to be returning for next season. But we'll see what happens with the Mastodon women. But there are some intriguing names, some names that we know, some names that the Mastodons have recruited out of high school that they didn't get. And I know we've talked about it before. A lot of times coaches, they concede players, but they maintain relationships. In other words, they don't get bitter about losing a recruiting battle out of high school because they know so many of these kids are going to go to places and experiences that are not going to be a fit for them. Most of them don't get the decision right first time out of the gate. And, I go back again. Connor Essegian was one of those guys. I mean, he really, really had a great relationship with the Mastodon coaches. His family liked the coaches. It was a great relationship, but Connor outgrew the Mastodons. When you start getting a chance at places like Wisconsin, okay, you've got to go experience it, see if it works for you. And then he ended up for Wisconsin. Things didn't work out, but he was highly sought after enough that he got a very nice NIL deal to go to Nebraska. So, but the one thing, when you've got relationships and good relationships and have built a really good reputation, not only among players, but among families who want the best for their child, that when you have players that want a certain style or a certain type of coach, they want to be coached a certain way. I think that Purdue-Fort Wayne has a lot to offer, both men's and women's basketball. Both sides.
Yeah. No question. No question.
All right. So you know what's coming up this week? Tin Caps are in town. We've got baseball.
Are they in town or are they on the road to start?
They're in town from spring training.
The players. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, the players are going to be here for 3 or 4 days before they depart for their season opening road trip. They play in like the northernmost city to open the season. I don't know who put that schedule together. Apparently, Mike Nutter doesn't have the same influence on the schedule that he used to, because of course, there's not a lot of options. Most of the teams in the Midwest League are all north. But they open at Great Lakes against the Loons up in Midland. on the road. And then next Tuesday, a week from Tuesday, the day after the college basketball season ends, the Tin Caps will have their home opener. And you heard about the 60-degree guarantee?
Yeah, I did. That's pretty cool.
It's not 60 degrees on game day, then you get tickets, or you get to exchange your tickets for opening day for any other game throughout April, based on supplies and matching tickets, etc.
Good deal. Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have baseball. A lot of familiar names will still be here.
Familiar manager.
Yeah, Jonathan Matthews comes back after a year away. So, yep, that'll get started at home a week from Tuesday, but on the air starting Friday.
Ready to start. It's baseball season officially starting Friday. I mean, MLB's already back in action, so I guess we're just fully in baseball season now.
All right, so once again, we want everybody to subscribe. We want to see you as subscribers to the channel. Also, thumbs up, leave a comment, share the channel, do all the great stuff to help us continue to grow, and let people know the Sports Rush is still kicking here on YouTube. Trying to keep you up to date with what's happening in Fort Wayne sports. Is there anything I missed?
Not that I can think of.
Nothing that came in on the comment line that we didn't talk about. So I guess we're good.
Yeah,
all right, have a great week, and stick around with the channel. Hopefully updated videos throughout. But once again, the Final Four is set. Indianapolis, here they come. Michigan, Arizona, Illinois, and UConn. The Huskies will be your Final Four teams coming to Indianapolis, along with the NIT, along with Division II, Division III. Everybody is coming to Indianapolis for the championship week, which I guess in some ways started Saturday with the IHSA baseball or basketball championships and continues pretty much all week long, because I think starting Tuesday or Wednesday, everybody will start getting into town for Final Four weekend. So it should be fun time in Indiana. Adam, have a great Sunday night. Have a great week, and we'll be back at you next weekend.